We know you're ready for some football, so let's talk about it. We're just 2 weeks away from kickoff to the 2026 season for most of our college teams and a bunch of high school teams in the Dakotas. So welcome to your South Dakota Sports Lounge. I'm your host, John Gaskins, from Happy Hour with John Gaskins every Monday through Thursday at SiouxFallsLive.com and the Midwest Sports Plus app. And over the course of the next 45 plus minutes, you're going to hear about the Jackrabbits, the Coyotes, the Bison, and beyond. We're going to go to Fargo and hear a full scope of FCS football talk with one of its authorities, Sam Herder from Hero Sports. He joined Dom Izzo's Hot Mic show. And we'll go to Rapid City, where Nate Brown caught up with the athletic director for the University of South Dakota. And Jon Schemmel will give his thoughts on Yote football and all their athletics as the fall sports season starts. And then in Brookings, Zach Borg has a feature on the 605 Hogs, the SDSU offensive line, and how it may be rounding into 2022 and 23 championship 4. That's the kind of stuff we talk about and the language we use before a football season starts. Everybody's undefeated. But with the Jackrabbits, it certainly does feel like the experience coming back, the talent that the Jacks have. Yeah, they're strong Missouri Valley Football Conference favorites, especially with North Dakota State off to the FBS. And they're ranked top 3, at the very least top 5 in any national poll that you will see come out. That's a big leap from last year's team that was 9-5 and was bounced in the round of 16. But Dan Jackson is a second-year head coach now, and I caught up with him and a bunch of Jackrabbit players and coaches on SDSU Media Day, Wednesday this week. Let's hear from the head coach. You feel like you're, at this point, 2 weeks before the first game. Are you feeling like, let's just play the first game? Or are you glad there's 2 weeks?
As a coach, you're glad there's 2 weeks because you love practice and the preparation of it. Maybe for interviews, I'm ready for there to be a game because I'm ready to do like a post-game interview. I'm ready for somebody to critique a fourth down call or something, like talk some football, really get into it. A lot of the off-season questions turn into, not yours, but a lot of the same thing over and over.
I know.
We get into different
I try
topics.
to avoid it.
You do. You do a great job.
Yeah.
So anyways, no, we're ready for football, but at the same time, I think the next 2 weeks are going to be really critical to build the middle to bottom of our roster and continue to elevate the depth.
What are you watching for most as a head coach? I know it's a long list every single day. What are the overall things you're always looking for, especially closer to game one, when you come out here and evaluate?
Practice is a lot different in this role, and that was one thing I needed to get used to. Is it's first just how we're operating as a practice. How are we transitioning the efficiency of the time that we're out here? If we're out here for 90 minutes or 120 minutes, I'm really critical as to the amount of work we're able to get in, the structure of the practice, the drills that we're doing, the situational portions of practice, and I don't want to waste our coaches or players' time. So every minute out here, making sure that it's used effectively, and then it's the spirit and the competition of practice. To me, football's a fun, physical, tough game, and we've been getting after it, and we've had the most competitive practice that I've ever been around. I mean, our guys go, and they get after it. So I'm paying attention to those things, and then I'm saying a lot of prayers to make sure no one gets hurt. So that's how my day goes.
For sure. And so, look, I've always called this Kool-Aid season. Everybody's undefeated, but in those things you're looking for, what are you finding?
I think we have a really competitive football team. I mean, the guys love the game. They love each other. It's easy to see how close they are and how connected of a group they are when you watch them practice or lift weights or really anything. If you just were able to be at a team event, you would see it. And we've tweaked and adjusted the schedule quite a bit as well. I think you're seeing a team that's energized and not getting worn out. A lot of coaches and programs, I feel like, just do fall camp the same way it's always been done. We did a lot and we accomplished a lot this summer. And so we've changed the schedule a great deal. So I see a motivated, fresh, excited team that's getting better every day.
We've been asking you this throughout from spring into whenever we last chat, July, and now you've seen some August practices. So at this checkpoint, I know things are night and day different as far as how advanced things are because a lot of guys returned, and you don't have a lot of guys that just walked into the building a couple months ago.
Definitely.
But in what specific ways are you saying, like, wow, this is different and this is much more ready to rock and roll?
The standards are more clear. I mean, the expectations and standard of winning has always been here, and that didn't vanish a year ago. But as you're learning a team and as you're learning one another and you're learning a staff, and a lot of people are in a role for the first time. I was a first-time head coach. Our quarterback was a first-time starter. A lot of our guys were first-time starters. A lot of our coaches were first-time at South Dakota State. There was standards and expectations and things there, but they're just much more clear now. And I feel much more comfortable holding that standard of accountability every single day, whether it's with a staff member or a player. And so there's just a clear vision as to what we're doing. And clarity, I learned this: clear is kind, unclear is unkind. And so I feel like the clarity in what we're doing is allowing us to have fun with it too.
I bet. You mentioned up at the podium today in front of media and boosters at the luncheon, head coaching type of stuff. You want to be the most disciplined, most physical, most connected team in the country. You've already brought up the connected part. When you talk about disciplined, compared to your barometer, any football season, any football team, how close were you to being as disciplined as you wanted to be last year, and what are you trying to do to close that
we were
gap?
We were an F last year in terms of discipline on the field.
And in areas, what do you mean discipline?
Jumping off sides, getting the inability to run the ball came from being tackled for a loss, or not understanding the play, or going left when I should have went right, or not having a full understanding of a job. So we worked up to the wrong linebacker, and it was a TFL. Defensively, just the speed in which we played, we weren't able to anticipate plays defensively. I think when we have a high bar here, and so when I'm talking about discipline, it's penalties, it's taking care of the football, it's sacks, it's doing all the things in our program, what we say, that take no talent. And there was too many times that we got in our own way last year, and it wasn't due to the talent, it was due to the execution. And that is not on the players, that's on the coaches, that's on the players, it's on the collective. But when I look at it this year, I would say that you can come to a practice and you won't see a guy jump off sides. You won't see. I mean, we've had officials here 8 times so far during fall camp, which is very unique for a school of our level. But that's because being the most disciplined team is a part of our identity. We're not going to just talk about something and not do it or emphasize it. We have officials here every day to help hold us accountable. So we've made big strides, and just being honest with you, last year wasn't good enough.
Right, and turnovers, I mean, this is a microcosm of, I went and looked through a bunch of stats, offense, defense, and overall things, and I tried to put it in the context of this team lost to its quarterback and had a third-string true freshman quarterback. Was
a
Jack
second-year
Henry?
player, but yeah.
Second-year play. I mean, there's about 4 or 5 games there that went awry and sideways, and some of it you try to take that into account in the overall wash of stats. But I did notice, third down, fourth down, turnovers lost, those are on the low ends of things. I guess I'll ask you, what metrics or stats did you look at and said, okay, we got to really improve that if we're going to win more games?
I think last year you could look at a lot of them and point out one specific thing, but the manner in which you play and the identity in which you play really is a trickle down into all of that. I look at red zone offense was something we struggled with early in the season and improved on. Well, then I have to look back and say we didn't practice that well enough. I didn't put them in enough situations to do that, and then even look deeper into the numbers and say, well, we weren't very explosive in terms of 50, 60, 70-yard touchdowns. Well, that helps, obviously, your offense. If you're 12, 13, 14, 15 play drives, you know what you are by the time you get to the red zone? You're tired. Yeah. Okay? And so we looked at every area, red zone, third down, fourth down, offense, defense, tackling, sacks, whatever the stat is. We kind of went through all of them, honestly, John, and we tried to look at them deeper than just a statistic because it was such a unique year with so many different players in and out, the
injuries,
coaches learning each other, us not always being on the same page to where it needed to be. And I say that off our standard. I think if you looked at most places, you'd say, oh, you guys did pretty good last year. But
understandable. But here's where it can lead to a question I was going to ask you in July, and it came to me now on this topic. How do you prevent? I mean, you can't necessarily. Well, you can prevent injuries, but you know what I mean. Sometimes kids are going to get injured, and it's going to happen. And you had a really good starting quarterback and a great receiver get hurt, and then and a good, awesome defensive lineman and Reese Kirschman, and an awesome linebacker and Chase Van Tol. Things are going to be different and tougher when you lose 4 players like that. Maybe it happens again this year, maybe it doesn't. But what kinds of things have you done or assessed in, for lack of a better word, things not falling apart for 4 games, to prevent that slide that you guys had?
Well, we've got depth, and so if you give us a year to build a roster, we're going to build a really good roster. And so the first thing, the way to be able to deal with injuries is to be able to have a second and third guy that's just as good as your starter. And we've got some high-level players on this team that are tough to replace, but I feel confident that now that we actually had a year to build a recruiting class, to bring in time to evaluate transfers, bring in the right guys, I mean, the depth here is something that I'm really, really proud of. And so it's building the competition for a couple things. Depth helps with your competition. So then it pushes everybody to be a little bit better. And when your starter isn't always, when he has to show up every day to keep his job, he gets better. And then the backup gets better. And so I like our depth. I like what we've added from that standpoint of it. We've also coached much better in the offseason. We started all the way back to ground zero with football 101s in January. So our players know what to do at a higher level. And then our strength coach only had 3 months with our team before last season. And so part of the injuries, him having an entire year now, every guy on our team is bigger, faster, stronger than they were a year ago, which hopefully that leads to less injuries as well.
Hey, you gave a big shout-out to Nate Morris up in front of everybody today. So
yeah, he's the best.
Best conditioned team you've had.
Best conditioned team I've been around. They feel it. And it's not me. I could look at them and say, oh, these guys are fit. These guys are strong. We have the metrics and the numbers and the analytics to look at that. But you also just have to ask them. I mean, we've had guys that are 6th-year players or 5th-year players say that he has changed their life. And for a guy that old to say that and their ability to perform and confidence in play is really amazing. So I can't thank him and his staff enough.
What are you looking for most, last question, these next 2 weeks before the Stetson game?
I would say refinement and just continue to clean and be efficient on offense. We're going to in defense in terms of we're going to start moving the ball more and playing practice more like a game. So the first 2 weeks, you're installing certain segments. Today's a 3rd down day, for instance, or a red zone day. Yeah. Now we kind of will be putting them all together into almost every practice, so they have to think and operate in situations. And then I'm really interested to see some of our 1st and 2nd year players make a big jump the next 2 weeks.
All right. That's the overview. If you want to learn more about specific players, Eric Eisness, the offensive coordinator, joined us, and we talked to a bunch of them today. That was the macro. We're going to hear plenty more of the micro, but it's good to hear from you, and looking forward to talking to you, after some games, after some stuff that's on film.
It's almost here, buddy. I can't wait. It's going to be a good year. Great year.
Dan Jackson, Jackrabbit coach, here on Happy Hour. From Brookings to Fargo, where Hot Mike with Dom Izzo brought in one of the authorities on FCS football.
One of our stalwarts is back with us. A new time slot, new day for our guy Sam Herder, and also the biggest and best designation, new dad as well. He and his wife became parents in the best month in June. Congratulations, my man. How is it being a dad?
Yeah, it's been great. It's been the fastest 10, 11 weeks ever. Summer has flown by, and it's been good, but it's back at work now for the last couple of weeks. So excited to get back into the swing of things and be back onto the show. I'm bringing some cabin vibes to the show right now. We're up on the North Shore. And the timing kind of worked out well because my office space, I kind of got booted upstairs. And that office space is still coming together, so I didn't really have a cool backdrop.
Under construction?
For that, so.
Are you getting any sleep right now?
Yeah, thankfully, sleeping at night has been really good. So we're very thankful for that. We know that's not always the case for parents, and so sleep at night has been pretty good. So we're very happy about that.
So there were a ton of things I was told before my son was born, like, hey, this is gonna, and everything was right. Was there anything you were told beforehand, like, I don't know about that, and then of course it comes to fruition? Is there anything that comes to mind, like, okay, everybody was right about this?
Yeah, I think one thing, I don't know if it's necessarily off the wall or not, but I remember one time someone told us, like, it's going to take you forever to get out the door. And I was like, I can't take that long. Like, just have the diaper bag pre-packed. Nope. Everything's good. But yeah, now before it was, we have some friends at a brewery. All right, let's go. Let's head out. We're out the door in 5 minutes. Now it's like,
nope.
Well, has she been fed? She's going to have to feed and then diaper change. And so that's one thing I remember hearing and being like, it can't be that bad. But now it's like, yeah, it takes a while to get out the door now.
That is fantastic, because I was telling Jack a story, like, he had to be maybe 4 months old. For some reason, I brought him to the mall, and by the time I literally got out the door, we had to get back so he could eat. I was there for like 15 minutes. Like, that was the dumbest thing I ever did. Why did I even decide to do that? So you're spot on that. So how much have you tried to keep up what's going on? It's been a crazy summer as per usual. Have you tried to stay on top of things? I understand you got to be a dad too.
Yeah, I tried as best as I could. I didn't go completely dark. I was still on social media, which is kind of the best place to keep track of things nowadays, as far as just like kind of quick hitting updates, whether it's the 5 for 5 or
Yeah.
the what Congress is doing and all the different rule changes as well when it comes to the NCAA level. And I kept up with my jersey countdown as well, and read other articles and other podcasts as well, just to try to stay. Kind of up to date with what's all going on in the FCS. So I wasn't totally, in the dark throughout the summer. And, a lot of the stuff too during the summer is not necessarily timely. Like it doesn't really matter if I write it doesn't really matter if I write the Tarleton preview in June or August. Maybe that's a good example because Tarleton just released their 2026 roster, so kind of works out that way. So yeah, summer's been really, really busy, but yeah, it's been good.
Well, I don't know about you. I'm just dying for the games. There's so much that we talked about last summer. It seemed like you and I were discussing the House settlement every show. Now between the eligibility stuff and obviously the Protect College Sports Act, I'm just excited to cover a game. And we have that in 15 days time. We're actually going to have football games to talk about.
Yeah, the offseason continues to get crazier and crazier,
Yes.
whether it is realignment or rule changes or just what's going to happen to the NCAA if they don't get an antitrust protection. So and now it's like I'm trying to finish some of my best returning players, but there's like I don't know who's all coming back now. There's like multiple all conference players that they could come back. Or they might not, come back depending on one if they get a waiver pass because they played at a JUCO. But now if they played 4 years, like 5th-year players as of right now can come back, but that could get turned down if the NCAA gets its say in court again. So yeah, it is like you said. Once the games start, I think we all kind of go back saying, okay, college football is still fun. Like tailgating is still fun. The games are still fun. All the off the field stuff is kind of a headache for fans and media. But once we get to games, it's kind of like, all right, Saturdays are still some of the best days when it comes to the calendar year.
Now, I know this is probably a tricky question since you've obviously been away. I'm interested, though, from what you know, your analytics on your site, traffic-wise, how has it changed? Has it changed with North Dakota State not being there and sucking up all the oxygen? That's kind of my go-to phrase for today. Has it changed a lot for what your site does, what you're covering for Hero Sports?
Yeah, so far it's been good. Obviously, I can't compare June and July to last year just because I was off when this June and July. But yeah, all the months, February, March, April, May, we were up year over year, in website traffic. And like my preseason top 25, I checked the analytics. Like we had more page views on my preseason top 25 this year than last year. Not by much, but it was still a year over year increase. So I think there's always that concern. I remember after the 2021 season when James Madison left and they had a really passionate fan base, and Sam Houston, Jacksonville State as well, they were decently passionate, kind of being concerned about what does that mean for page views and all that and podcast listens. But it continues to go up because I think like at that point, like Idaho fans weren't necessarily in tune with FCS nationally, but then they got good, and all of a sudden, Idaho traffic went up, and Montana State continued to rise up, and so their level of interest in national coverage has gone up. So I think as teams leave, other fan bases kind of take their spots and be more entrenched in what's going on nationally. So we'll see how the season goes. That's obviously when most of the interest is there. But I think so far it's shown some positive signs that the level of interest in the FCS continues to increase. And I think last year the playoffs really helped with that, because I do think if NDSU gone undefeated and won the national championship, the discussion would be different this offseason of like, what is the playoffs going to do without NDSU? It could be in trouble. But because the Bison lost early last year, we saw a sample size of what could be in like all the TV ratings for the most part went up in the quarter, semis, and championship game. And I think that at least gives a sign of confidence that, there still is a level of interest, even though like the Bison brand carries a ton of weight, that even without NDSU, that the interest in the playoffs and FCS football, I think is still going to be really high.
What does it look like this fall, though, Sam, without NDSU? Montana State obviously is the clear-cut favorite, but just as a whole, what does the subdivision look like without them there?
Yeah, I think it'll again, I think the playoffs helped just because we saw the quarters and the semis and the championship game without NDSU. But I think when NDSU has been such a stalwart throughout all these years in the FCS, it will look a little bit different. Obviously, but I think for the most part, because that announcement happened 6 years ago, like I think a lot of people have already kind of moved on to a certain extent because like in whether it's media or fans, like in their headspace as they're thinking about the 2026 season and who's going to be good, who are the top players, like NDSU just isn't, on the radar anymore. So I think naturally people have kind of just like moved on. I've only heard one comments on social media as far as like, oh, it's so weird not seeing NDSU, on there. But other than that, I feel like everyone has kind of like moved on to the fact that, okay, it's going to be Montana State, and then who are their top challengers? Is there going to be a dark horse in there? So it is weird when you talk about it, and you bring it up, but I don't think it's like kind of on the top of mind as we look forward to the season.
I want to look at the top 10 that came out when Craig Haley put out the FCS stats poll, which obviously you're a voter on that. And Montana State clearly is the team that everyone's looking at. And then I'm interested after that. Montana has obviously got a new coach. South Dakota State, what do they do if Chase Mason can stay healthy this year? And then after that, I don't know. Davis, we think might be good. I was just talking with Drew Trafton on, I'm not sold on Illinois State. I got to see it because they were this close to not even, it would be another 9-5 year if they don't beat NDSU. Tarleton, what do they stack up in 2026? What after Montana State is out there? You tell us.
Yeah, I think South Dakota State is going to be really, really good. And I think Montana, it just seems with the Grizz, there is kind of a breath of fresh air, some renewed energy. We'll see what they look like operationally without Bobby Hauck at the helm. There's one thing you for sure would know about Montana with Bobby Hauck leading the way, and that was they're going to be very disciplined. And they have a lot of talent this year. Are they going to, kind of be operationally as clean as they once were? I think that'll be really important to pay attention to. But I think the Grizz have a ton of talent, especially offensively. After that, though, I think UC Davis has a chance to be really good if their quarterback play hits. And that's a big unknown for them because they'll have a new starter. But traditionally, the Aggies have been able to reload at that spot. Illinois State, like you mentioned, I think is going to be fascinating because can they capture the lightning in a bottle that they caught in the playoffs last year and kind of parlay that into this year? I know like fan base wise, that's really ignited them. They've raised millions of dollars as well in support. Quarterback is a question mark. Same thing with probably cornerback and defensive line, but they bring back 3 or 4 starters on the O-line with starting experience. Dawson is coming back at running back. They have 2 experienced receivers on the outside, but they do lose Sopkowitz. Niekamp brother is coming back on the defensive side. So there's a good nucleus there for Illinois State, but can they continue on what they did last year? I think we'll be interested. Very interesting. And then, after that, I think Tarleton is going to continue to rise. I think UND is going to be really good the more I look at them. The one thing that's interesting in the FCS, so there are so many good quarterbacks coming back. So like Austin Peay, Chris Parson, really good. Does he vault them into a top 10 team? Youngstown State with Bo Brungard coming back. Can they vault into being a top 10 team? Rhode Island has Devin Farrell back. He's an All-American quarterback. Can they take the next step? So a lot of these rosters, there is a decent amount of turnover, but the one spot that has been kept relatively clean in the FCS has been the quarterback spot. And so we'll see if like some of those teams that do return their standout quarterbacks, if they can elevate their play.
I'm just looking at the preseason top 10. You mentioned Tarleton, Davis is there, Rhode Island, Villanova, which do we know a solution on their quarterback yet? What's going on with Villanova's QB status?
Yeah, Pat McQuaid, well, he's not on the 2026 roster, but, the NCAA turned down his waiver for a 5th year. Or for an extra year, but then the court said he could come back, but they're still trying to figure, that out. So Villanova has a good amount coming back. I think if McQuaid is back, they're a top 10 team. If he isn't back, then, that's obviously a bigger question mark at the quarterback spot. But I think Villanova should be pretty strong, and they're moving to the Patriot League.
That's right.
And so, the Patriot League is kind of going up. I think the Ivy League, is going up as well. The CAA is kind of sliding backwards behind, those two. The East Coast is, as we always talk about, the East Coast, someone needs to rise, out of there. And is it Villanova, Rhode Island. I think Yale is going to be really good this year as well. So I'm very interested to see how things shake out east.
Last thing before we go. Now this is the FCS is going to have week 0 to itself. That's now going to become week 1 starting next year because FBS is going to move in to that last Saturday or Thursday in August spot. I am disappointed the games that are there aren't necessarily any good ones, Sam. Like on that Thursday, 2 weeks from tomorrow, we don't have anything that really jumps off, say, boy, that should be on TV and let's get going.
Yeah, I did a podcast on this a handful of months ago, just talking about how I thought it was a missed opportunity for the FCS because they had the TV windows to themselves Thursday and Friday, and then most of the day Saturday. And as you and I have talked about for a few years, like it was just a matter of time before the FBS fully moved into week 0. So this was kind of like the one-time shot for the FCS, especially to capitalize on the momentum of last year's FCS playoffs and the championship game. I feel like a lot of casual fans kind of bought into the FCS and saying they were going to pay attention to it more this upcoming year just because the playoffs and the championship game was so fun to watch. But now, there isn't, a whole lot of needle moving games. Like Tarleton plays Prairie View A&M. PV is probably a Celebration Bowl favorite, and Tarleton is going to be a top 10 team. So that one's pretty decent. And Southern Illinois goes to West Florida, who's the newest FCS team that has potential. That's another decent one right there. But yeah, I counted them up, and I think it's 20 plus FCS versus non-D1 games. I can't remember the specific number, but there's just way too many non-D1s in week 0. So like you said, yeah, kind of a disappointing slate for the FCS in week 0.
It's great to have you back, man. Congratulations, and we look forward to doing this on Wednesdays this fall, okay?
Yep, that sounds great with me. Great to be back on.
There he is. Sam Herder joins us from Hero Sports, BetMGM. We're not abandoning our FCS coverage. Sam will be on each and every Wednesday. Give us the lowdown on what's going on across the FCS.
Out west to Rapid City, where the Nate Brown Show welcomed in the athletic director at USD.
Now the Yotes are at it. Jon Schemmel's USD Athletic Director. A big season coming up football-wise, new coach. John, welcome in. How are you?
I'm doing great, Nate. Thanks for having me.
I appreciate the time on short notice. And I said, I got to get John on, talk about this Protect College Sports Act, where things are at for you and kind of what it means. So are you keeping an eye on this? I come in here every day, and I'm trying to keep an eye on things, where this is at in the Senate, and they're getting ready to leave over the weekend. Are you keeping an eye on the Protect College Sports Act? Yeah,
shoot, Nate. I thought you were going to tell me what's all involved in it when I came on here. No, it's, par for the course, I guess, in the world we've been living in the last couple of years. But absolutely keeping an eye on it. And overall, while I would say the act itself doesn't necessarily change the life day-to-day for USD Athletics, I think the act overall and the fact that we finally have alignment through our entire membership and obviously the Big Ten and the SEC are driving most and all of this stuff right now. Having alignment with this act and really with anything we're doing right now, that in and of itself is really significant. And, we have taken some steps over the last couple of years with the House settlement and age-based eligibility now. So this is another step where the membership itself and the body is aligned, and that is a good thing and something for us to celebrate and be excited about moving forward.
What do you think right now, as you saw it last week about this time, was looking dicey? Then Friday it was like, well, no, it's back, and now you're going to get 60 votes or more in the Senate, and now I see today there's some objections. How are you feeling right now on the possibility here?
Yeah, it still might be an uphill battle. I don't know. I really grateful for Senator Thune and his office for continuing to push this. We've made it very clear that we, USD, President Gestring and I are very supportive of it. I think knowing the votes are there, in the Senate especially, is a really good sign. We didn't have it. We didn't have that even as soon as a week or two ago. And so I hope that things will continue to progress. And, what I would say, too, is even if it does go through, it's by no means a perfect act, but it's another big step in the right direction. And, I think that in and of itself is a good thing and something to be celebrated. And, I'm optimistic that it'll go. I think cautiously optimistic, and we'll kind of see where it goes from there. But we've certainly made it clear that we're very supportive of it, and overall, it's a very good thing for Division I athletics, and it's a tremendous thing for student athletes as well. And certainly what student athletes are getting and receiving as far as an overall experience today compared to 2-3 years ago, certainly 10, 20 plus years ago. They're getting a lot more, and that's a good thing.
John, so if you're a fan of it and you say nothing's perfect, but you got to take the good with some negotiation here, what elements do you like as a USD athletic director for your type of institution and athletic department with athletes? Because you're not going to be spending $48.5 million in revenue share like Ohio State, which wants that. So what elements do you like on this?
I mean, just the fact that they're working to implement caps, right? I mean, we are nowhere near the cap, and we're not going to worry about the cap, certainly not anytime soon, and certainly not any time in my career. But the fact that those are getting implemented, everything has a downward effect, right? And ultimately, with the market at the top continuing to spin and grow and jump 100, 200, 300% every single year, I think we all recognize that's not sustainable. And while we're not competing in those markets, that pull on the market impacts our market. And so I think the fact that there would be some stability at the top and what the caps truly are has a downward effect throughout all of Division I, and hopefully will slow the growth into something that we can actually sustain and work into, because we can't just keep doubling, tripling, paying student athletes or doing other things every single year, and that's basically been the trajectory for the last few years. So I think that is a very significant thing, even though the caps aren't necessarily in play on our campuses, nor will they be probably ever.
Jon Schemmel on tonight talking Protect College Sports Act. It's in the Senate right now, and just kind of waiting and seeing. It's kind of updated every hour or so where it's at. USD Athletic Director on tonight from Vermilion. So what's the challenge for you on the transferring thing? I had a question of the day last week for the audience. I said, What's worse, the no money, no cap on like unlimited spending that some institutions can do, or unlimited transfers that's also been going on? So I ask you, what's the challenge at USD? You've lost some great players, and I understand they've elevated themselves and they've elevated your program when they were there, but you have to rebuild, it seems, every year. So the transferring thing, is that a big plus if this goes through?
That is huge. Listen, it's impacted us, and it's impacted all of our peer institutions and everybody up, down, and all around. I think having some semblance of, you got one freebie and whatever the next one is, you're going to have to sit out a year. Those types of things would be hugely beneficial for us. And I think throughout the entire collegiate athletics, I think the donor fatigue and fan fatigue of always having to pay more and more and more is very, very real. I also think maybe even more than that, especially at our level, that's probably what I hear more about from our fans, is just the inability for these kids to come in and just unlimited free agency every single year, and how much that impacts. I think one thing that's really special about college athletics versus professional sports, and certainly Division I programs in communities like Vermilion, South Dakota, is these kids come in and build relationships not only with the university but with the community. They really get to know the members in the community, And that's something our donors and our Vermilion community members miss tremendously. And when that does happen and there is that much churn, and and so I think that's a huge aspect of this, that we can get some kind of control back over. It doesn't eliminate, the kid that comes in and realizes they make a mistake, or something happens in their personal life, or they need to go closer to home, or whatever it is. Everybody still gets that one free move. But then beyond that, you'd have to sit out a year, and those types of things now will likely impact their financial situations, and it's less appealing, and that is a good thing. It's going to impact graduation rates. It's going to impact all of these things, and ultimately we need to remember we're tethered to higher education. This is about getting degrees and all of these things, and the transfer, having some kind of transfer restriction would be very helpful with that for sure, and I think something we'd all celebrate.
Good stuff from Jon Schemmel tonight. Appreciate his time. Couple more. I'll let him run. USD Athletic Director. The Yotes football season is underway. Guys have been working hard. I've thought about this. Okay, the Valley's going to be competitive as heck again. Your program's been on the rise. You're going through a coaching change, even though you stayed within, going through a coaching change. I want to ask you about the support. How hard of a job right now is it, John, to get that place packed, season tickets sold? How big of a challenge is that every year?
Huge credit to our fans. They've stuck with us. I think the biggest thing, I'm still kind of traditional in the sense that if we're winning, fans are going to come, and they've certainly proven that over the last few years. Our attendance is up 40% from 3 years ago. And season ticket sales were up, I think, 10% this year versus last year.
Okay.
So they've continued to stick with us in that. And, I think they're always disappointed, when you have a coach that leaves after a year. But I think that it's about the logo and the paw, and ultimately that's where the loyalty is and remains. And as long as we're not in positions where the program's taking big steps backwards, they're going to continue to celebrate us for that. And, I think that's where the outside perception, we don't quite get that same respect as some of the top 3-4 programs yet. And I think from the outside looking in, they see coach turnover or transfers. The part that they don't know and they don't see is what we've built underneath, the infrastructure of this program. The resources we're putting into that program now are second to none in FCS, and certainly are ahead of several programs in FBS. So, that's why we're winning, and that's why we're continuing to win. And the fans have been a big part of that. And ultimately, if we keep winning, they're going to keep coming. And I'm confident that the product on the field is going to continue to get better and better every year.
I saw this partnership today, the Midco Club. That was a big partnership, $1.5 million. Midco Club. You changed the name of the Dome Club. This is the Midco Club looking out over the field. What do you think?
Love it. It's, that space was, when it was initially designed, for whatever reason, had closed windows that wouldn't open, and they were soundproof. So it was a premium area, and you'd go in there, and it'd be like a church on Sunday. There'd be a football game going out there, and it was really quiet in that room. So there's a lot of other really nice upgrades we did and through the gift, but the big thing is being able to open the windows up and bring the game environment into that space. Obviously Midco's been a tremendous partner for us for many, many years, and so grateful to them. Nate, I think kind of to the point about everything and the fans getting excited and staying with us, we raised over $32 million this year, which is 13 million more than we've ever raised in a single year. We've almost raised $50 million in the last 2 years, which is more than we've raised in the last 10 years combined before that. So, our fans are getting behind us, and everything's up and to the right for Coyote Athletics and Coyote football, and this Midco investment is a big thing to celebrate, and part of that for sure.
I just got to find out, how do I get into the Midco Club? What do I have to do, John, to get into the Midco Club?
Yeah. So we do. We have tickets you can buy in there, and so we have a certain amount of seats that you can buy season tickets in there. And then any donors, all-in Yote Fund members that are 10,000 and above can go in there, come and go as they please before the game at halftime, and grab a refreshment and or a cold beer and some upgraded food. But there's seats for sale in there. We're almost sold out. There's not very many left, and we're very confident that with this release today that they're going to sell out very, very quickly.
I like it. Kind of a club-level access there. The Midco Club announced today a gift in partnership with Midco at the Dome for Coyote football. Jon Schemmel on tonight, USD Athletic Director. Last one, have you been out on the field with Coach Vitztham and the guys? Have you been out there? What do they look like?
Absolutely. I got to watch them scrimmage today from the Midco Club, actually. I got to sit in there and take a couple calls while watching them scrimmage. They look great. It's exciting to watch them, obviously. It's fun to watch the guys compete. They had their first full go scrimmage today, so it was fun to watch guys hit. And at least while I was watching, it was good to see everybody stay healthy. I like our team, and we're a little more confident this year, even without we know what we have, right? We had this roster in the spring, unlike last year when our roster got obliterated in the spring portal. This year not having that has certainly been helpful, and so at least we know what we have, and we're certainly excited about it moving forward. But yeah, it's. You mentioned that soccer started today. Student athletes are back. It's the best time of the year, and for all of us, Nate, every year hope springs eternal, right? And that's the best part of it. And we're definitely excited. But excited about Vitz. He's done a hell of a job. He and his staff, and we got a squad. We're gonna be tough.
All right, I like it. Fall sports getting underway at USD. I caught up with Jon Schemmel tonight across South Dakota, USD Athletic Director. Good info, John. Thanks for sharing. I appreciate it.
You bet. Thanks, Nate, and go Yotes.
Thanks a lot, Jon Schemmel, USD Athletic Director. Good stuff there.
Back to the Jacks, where the offensive line has been dubbed the 605 Hogs for quite a while now, and they had some legendary units when they were winning national titles and going to the national semifinals for 5 years in a row from 2021 to 2024. But the Jacks fell short of the quarterfinals last year in Dan Jackson's first season. There's optimism that they'll round back to national championship form, and that has a lot to do with the dudes up front. Zach Borg has the profile.
Owning the most distinct identity within South Dakota State's football program,
605 Hog stands for playing 60 minutes, 0 excuses, and then 5 playing as 1. It's a privilege to have that title and come in here. Guys need to come in and humble themselves and just bust their butts.
At a position known for grit and sandpaper toughness.
I think that's the coolest thing in the world, that the room has an identity. And I got here, I didn't know much about it. We're at our first meeting, and I was going to break it down, and then I was like, hey, 5 strong on 3, and then Quentin's like, that's not what we break it down on. I'm like, all right, perfect, I'm flexible.
It's easy to see why the Jackrabbit offensive linemen don't mince words when reflecting on last year's 9-5 campaign.
It was really humbling. I'd been on some really good teams, and that was kind of a kick in the a little bit.
The numbers at a school known over the last 2 decades for power football back it up. After running for an average of more than 225 yards per game and 6 yards per carry over the previous 2 seasons, the Jackrabbits saw those numbers cut drastically in 2025. Their rushing attack ranking in the bottom quarter of the Missouri Valley with 154 yards per game and just over 3.5 yards per carry. It was the worst season on the ground for State since 2011, the last time the program had a losing record and failed to qualify for the playoffs.
We look at ourselves as coaches, too, after the season. We looked at some things. How can we make some things easier here or there? How can we make some tweaks and be more efficient in this aspect? A couple technique things here or there. We really got it cleaned up, during spring ball. And like you said, just a lot of it's communication or how we're tagging something on the offense. Just, hey, let's make this a little easier in this way. But, yeah, it's just, like I said, I feel like we really took those steps through the spring, through the summer, and that's what I'm excited to see it pay off this fall.
There were plenty of external factors contributing to the decrease in production, starting with the significant roster turnover in the running back room, with most of the backfield transferring after the head coaching change in the offseason, leaving an inexperienced group of youngsters and Fordham transfer Julius Lawfridge.
We got a mix of vets and then some redshirt freshman type guys, and I think it's a good blend. You saw flashes, but I think getting that experience and then being in the playbook for another year, being another year in the strength and conditioning, I think that's good. But, they all look pretty good right now. I don't care who's the starter. Every single one of them can run a touchdown every game. I don't care, but I think we're going to be in a good spot.
Injuries would also hit the 605 Hogs hard, with Bankston forced to shuffle his lineup late in the year.
I saw the offensive line always fighting to find ways to improve and get better. Then they put in so much time last year to get comfortable. It really showed up later in the year when we needed to move players around to multiple positions, which I had never had to do in my career. And Coach Bankston did a really good job with that plan. And really, we were running the ball very well at the end of last year.
The Jacks averaged nearly 200 yards in their final 2 victories, building better depth through the trials of 2025 to complement their 4 returning starters in 2026.
We got some guys that are, trying to go crack that starting lineup. John Pika is going to be one that's going to compete for that right side. Jackson Kirsten, Cooper Starks, Kyan Rauch are guys that are all doing a really nice job right now. But, who's going to be the 5? I'd like to play, 6 or 7 or 8, even if we can.
Some of our second-year players are really able to take a step and a jump and go. And we've got such great leadership with guys like Quentin and Pap and Shane and, some of our more veteran guys as well, Big Bo. So I feel great that we've got a really good balance of veteran experience with young talent that's hungry.
And fire is certainly something that's never been lacking on a Jackrabbit offensive line.
We definitely left some meat on the bone. Guys are more familiar with each other, more familiar with their spots. Obviously, we have something to prove this year. We're not worried about the first game. We're not worried about the 4th game. Right now, we're going to go in the film room. We're going to learn from what we did wrong, and then how can we get better each rep and each play. But I think if we approach every practice and every rep with that mindset, I think we're going to be a good spot come week 0.
With the Jackrabbits in Brookings for Midwest Sports Plus, I'm Zach Borg.
And that'll do it for another South Dakota Sports Lounge. Join us next week and be sure to tune in to all of these daily shows. Happy Hour with John Gaskins in Sioux Falls, Hot Mic with Dom Izzo in Fargo, and the Nate Brown Show out in Rapid City. For video producer Cordell Wright and our content director Drew Trafton, I'm John Gaskins. Cheers.